these totals. Fly. Pick your nose.
You do.
And here we have Holly Longdale. She'll be picking her.
A good producer does what she's doing.
Oh, could you kneel while you do it?
She's like, oh, it's you. You're up.
Oh, we're up? Hey, we're up! And welcome to our extraordinarily professional webcast. My name is Dave Jorgensen. I'm a smoke jumper on the forums. I'm the Director of Development for the EverQuest franchise. You've seen me before. With me today is Holly Longdale, Windstalker, and she is the producer for EverQuest 2.
Hello.
And the eloquent.
Yeah, I feel like I've just seen you, Dave.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
we're here to talk a little bit about the future of EverQuest 2, some of the stuff that's coming up in the near future, as well as some longer range vision for where we'd like the game to go, and the kinds of things that you can expect as we move forward. And of course, I know a lot about the project, but Holly knows way more. So we're going to ask her a bunch of questions and see how things go. I know that the nearest future thing that we're doing, the really big thing, that the next big release is going to be the revamp of Kinos.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. Much like the Freeport release in December, Kinos is going to be a re-envisionment of the content in that we're going to be updating it. Much like it was done in Freeport, the actual area is going to be improved with art. We're splitting it into 2 zones at this point, so it will be north and south Kinos together, called the Capital District, and then
So 2 zones?
Yes.
Got it.
Or no, so north and south will be together in the Capital District, and then what was formerly Eldar and Kinos Harbor will be the 2nd zone, which will be the Province District.
I see.
Yeah.
And then the hoods and stuff will still be there?
They will be used, much like in Freeport, as adventure zones for the additional content that we've been adding to Kinos. Lots of new content.
Okay, cool. So it's kind of like the Freeport revamp. So there's all kinds of different class and archetype quests and stuff.
Yeah, in a very similar fashion. There's going to be class quests, race quests, and storyline quests at very regular intervals. So there's always going to be pretty much something to do at any level.
So it's dynamic levels and everything.
Yes.
That's fantastic. So you'll be able to play in, say, like one of the newbie zones on the good side, and then be able to go to Kinos or whatever it is later on, and be able to experience all of that stuff kind of organically, like you can on the evil side right now.
Yeah. So a lot of some of the original quests have been maintained. There's a lot of the original content still existing.
Cool.
Some of the Welcome to Kinos starter city quests are gone, of course, because they were connected to the hood. So those have been massaged a bit or reimagined.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, so from what I understand, at level 20, that's the plan right now, you'll be able to at least start the storyline quests, a race quest, and a class quest. And those, I believe there's still going to be some quests you can do up until that point. So if you do go from a starting city before you're 20, you won't be without something to do in Kinos.
Now, we don't have any visuals for Kinos and the revamps, but I've seen it.
It's
and
awesome.
It's
amazing.
It might be better than Freeport. I mean, it's really, really well done.
Yeah.
When do you think we're going to be releasing some screenshots and stuff for that? Will that be before or after E3?
I'm hoping before. I think we're pretty ready. Our art director, Tim Hadelar, has got some really good shots for us to show, specifically the before and after of what Kinos looks like from a distance and close up, and also from within the city. And it is amazing. I mean,
it's really good.
It had to be split into 2 zones just purely for the depth and the amount of content that was in there originally, and we wanted to keep a lot of that because the detail is really incredible. I mean, I believe it took 2 to 3 years to make Kinos originally, so we didn't want to tear all that down. We wanted to make sure we're building upon it. A lot of really good texture improvements. The center of the city from a distance, we'll definitely get images out because it's crazy. It's amazing.
I'm really impressed that it looks like it was built that way originally.
Yes.
It integrates really nicely.
Yes.
Is there anything else you wanted to mention about? Can you fly in the zone?
Can't fly. Yeah, can't fly. You can't fly.
And it's not a starting city.
Yeah, no, it's not a starting
We're still
city.
using the regular starting areas that we have now.
Yes, and to that end, though, we didn't want to ignore starting cities altogether. So we have been, in the next month, we're going to be looking at Some of the cities doing some polish, looking at some of the drops and loot that have been in the starting cities and doing some polish and improvements. So we didn't want to ignore the continuity altogether.
Cool.
So yeah, we are taking a look at it. Yeah.
That's great. So that's Keynos. And then after we release Keynos, then of course we need to get back to the Destiny of Velius and Ages in Prophecy storylines.
Yes.
What's coming next in that?
So I should also say with Keynos, the story has been reimagined. You know, it's now almost present tense. You know, we're looking at new storylines and adding a lot of depth in the storyline, especially for Antonia and another cast of characters, which the team has asked me not to talk about yet. So there's some really good dramatic stuff in there that I think players are really going to enjoy, and depending on your race and class, etc., you'll get a different viewpoint and perspective of the story from all these different angles.
Cool.
Then continuing on from Keynos and also from Sky Shrine, we're hoping, we will. The next instance will be, not instance specifically, instance of the storyline,
The next update, GU. Got it.
It will be sleepers. So, and it'll be the first wave of sleepers, we'll say. So there'll be raid content specifically in there and heroic group content.
I think you're using shorthand. Sleepers?
Sleepers too.
So what was formerly known as Sleepers too?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Dragons and stuff.
Dragons and stuff. Well done.
Oh, and I should say, sorry, I meant to add as well, just keeping along with the theme of Destiny of Velius and moving on from there, we do still expect next year to have the final confrontation with Terraform. So that's the plan, and it's a big plan. And we're really looking forward to seeing the story through. And I think we want to make sure, too, there's going to be other things happening. Dave's probably about to ask me about an expansion. We're carrying the story arc of the game through all of our content. So we'll be able to deliver all the different aspects very well and deeply in detail.
I know how the Ages in Prophecy is supposed to end. And I know how this is going to culminate. So, like, I know the big plot line.
Yeah.
What's going to be fun is seeing how you move through all the different areas that we have before we get to that final stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting dramatic stuff leading up to that, and we've seen a lot of questions from the players, so we want to make sure we satisfy the expectations.
Cool.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So you're actually, are you adapting the story based on the questions? Like if there's something missing, are you actually going in and filling in the blanks and stuff?
Yeah, it's actually amazing how much players notice that we need to pay attention
Sure,
to
yeah.
because, you know, they are also experts in our lore quite often.
We have
so.
full-time jobs, but they love it.
yeah. We love it too, and
Yeah.
you know, we want to make sure that it meets the expectations for sure.
Cool. All right, so you mentioned the expansion pack. We haven't. I'm not sure we've actually confirmed that we're doing an expansion pack. Are we doing an expansion pack this year?
No. Yes.
Ah!
Yes.
She means yes.
Yeah. In producer speak, that means yes.
Is it going to be another feature pack like AOD?
No. We're equally excited as to announce the feature pack for AOD last year. It is a content expansion, so we will be focusing a lot on. Obviously the storyline, we don't want to say too much now, but there's a really interesting deep storyline in there. You're going to be going to an area of Norath that no one has visited before,
That's
which
right.
is really exciting.
In fact, it's barely even been mentioned.
Yes, so we're thrilled about that. You're going to see some new characters that have been referenced in the past that have not been seen in either EverQuest game thus far. So it's pretty exciting for us and the team to start getting through the details on that. Yeah.
And we'll probably have more information about that after E3 or closer to Keynos anyway.
Yes.
Closer to the Keynos launch, we'll start talking about the expansion pack.
Definitely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and
So
I
it'll
can
be a
say,
bit.
we can at least say it'll be levels, prestige, abilities, and what you would expect from a content expansion from us.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus some other stuff we may be able to talk about soon.
Later, yeah.
Yeah, not quite yet. Man, that would be cool. We can do that.
Yes.
So that's the new big content on the horizon. Of course, we'll have to wrap up Ages End and all that stuff when we get to it. We know what all those zone releases are and everything like that. But what about some of the existing features that we have right now? Like, for instance, we know that there's some issues with Battleground Matchmaking, and we have always wanted to do play as a character in Dungeon Maker.
Yes.
Is there any news on any of those fronts?
Yeah, so in December we allowed the ability to play as a character in a very rudimentary way on test server.
Mm-hmm.
We took a look at that, and even as a team in our own tests, we felt like we needed to do something more. One of our resident geniuses, Dave Kish, a programmer, he's our assistant lead, had previously thought and imagined doing what he called level agnostic dungeons. And in fancy jargon, what that means is ultimately you can go into any dungeon at any level with a group. So I could, as a level 20 group with a level 70, and we could play and get equal rewards and experience that's appropriate for our levels. And it would feel solid, fun, and good. No one would be at a disadvantage or an extraordinary advantage.
So you mean it's basically tweaking the number values as you do damage or cast spells or anything like that? It's basically up and down to meet a middle point for the Dungeon Maker stuff?
Yeah, it's crazy math.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So there's just a few variables in those equations.
Right, just a few. Yeah. But you know, such as are the geniuses on our team. So we've got a few test areas now. We applied at first to Dungeon Maker. It seemed like the best place to apply that, given we wanted people to play as a character, easy access, grab a friend, go into a zone, and have it be reasonably well balanced. So we're still working on some balance issues. I'm hoping next week we'll have it on test server, so people can go in and play. Hopefully test copy server also.
And we're going to be running a Dungeon Maker contest of some sort soon, right?
Yes. Yeah, I believe we're launching that tomorrow.
For building dungeons?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a contest for Poet's Palace, that dungeon specifically.
That's the new one?
Yes. Yeah. So the hope is, and we'd like to ask everyone to participate, build a dungeon, do some great design and some good work, and then as we launch, we're hoping to launch the play as a character in Dungeon Maker mid next month, which is about the same time the contest ends, so it's a perfect time to jump in as your character and try out some of these dungeons that your friends and guildies have created.
So they build them now, get cool prizes, and the next month you can play them as a character.
And get more cool prizes.
So cool. All right, awesome. So, okay, so that's the near future stuff. That's most of our features and stuff like that. But we've also been talking a lot recently, and just so you're aware, we've been talking about, like, what is EQ2? What do we want players to be experiencing with EverQuest 2? What sorts of things do we want to change in the way that we deliver content and things? And some of the stuff we've been talking about are like, well, let's start with the simple stuff, the kind of mechanical things, like say how we want to run the beta tests and things like that. You guys have been developing tools in order to be able to more rapidly iterate, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's both, you know, Akil Hooper, Lindro, the lead designer, and myself have come back to Sony after some time away, as have you. And there's, you know, a couple things that seemed sort of alarming to us, in that historically and where we've been in the past, testing is a pretty there's a rapid iteration process. Mm-hmm. You go onto a server in a beta. If there's a problem, you can quickly change a few variables, etc., change it, have your players test it on the fly. EQ2 hasn't had that ability thus far, and now it does. So again, you know, our programming team has created a tool. We're calling it, fancy, beta test tool.
Ooh,
yeah, crazy. But ultimately, you know, and
marketing involved.
You're right. We'll get a nice name. So what we noticed as well through Skyshrine and testing through on test copy with Skyshrine was the amazing participation, and we want to encourage that participation, and we understand that one of the frustrations is, especially if you're coming in as a group or a raid, or even testing quests, to have our devs on server. If you're finding issues, they can be online, change something immediately as soon as we see a report of an issue, and it's fixed for you, and we get better feedback and better testing overall.
So are you talking like just typos or broken quests or like stat changes or what?
Everything. So broken quests, typos, raid issues, spell problems, everything.
So you could actually say, I'd rather have 4 orcs in this encounter group instead of 3?
Yes.
Or
And-
just on the fly, change it?
Yep.
Let's kick ass.
Yeah, changing raid spells, raid scripts, mob spells, it's crazy.
So testers on test server can actually give you feedback live to a dev right there.
Yes.
And they can change it on the spot.
Yes. So historically, it was like, come back, sorry it's broken, we can't proceed with the test, please come back in a day or two when we get it updated. That will be a thing of the past.
Do you know if there's any other MMOs that do this?
I don't believe
I'm
so.
not asking you if there are any.
I will say
Do you know
no.
of any?
We are the only ones ever.
I don't think there are.
I know, right? It's pretty awesome.
I don't think so. We've also been talking a lot about how our, well, let's just say we have a little bit of dialogue in the game.
No.
Just a little bit of dialogue
Yes.
in the game.
Yeah.
And you've been talking about different ways of treating story in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, my background on the EQ team was as focused on a content designer. So, we're always looking for better and innovative ways and really fun, engaging ways to deliver content that's really immersive and meaningful to the player.
Yeah.
I also know for a fact the EQ2 team has been immersed in this historically as well, but we now want to, we have a really awesome, solid team right now with a lot of talent. And I think we all agree, including yourself, that we need to do a better job, and we have been doing a better job. Skyshrine's a good example of making interactions with NPCs matter. When you see interactions between heroic characters and really notable NPCs, that you should see and feel those interactions as you would expect them to happen, not through a dialogue box. So we've done work with audio. We did some really interesting VO with some dragons in Skyshrine, and we want to work more on interactive environments, not in a platforming way, but just to make it meaningful to the player when you're in an environment, so you feel a challenge, you feel atmosphere, you feel even something as detailed as an audio cue, so you'll be able to hear or be able to tell that something's about to happen with particle effects, etc. So we really want to pour ourselves into this show, not tell idea. And we're really dedicated to that now and moving forward, as they were in Skyshrine.
Right.
Yeah.
Skyshrine was kind of a half step towards where we want to go.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I think we can
And
all
by-
admit.
Just real quick, if
Yeah.
you haven't gotten your 280 AAs yet, do it, because you need to play Skyshrine.
It's so well worth it.
It's,
Yeah.
it's absolutely worth it.
Very dramatic. And we want to build on that, and why wouldn't we? And I think all of us who play MMOs or games in general, no one likes to be greeted with a wall of text from an NPC.
Right.
So I think it's our goal to make you feel it and experience it rather than read it.
But we're not getting rid of text.
Of
We're
course
not getting
not.
rid of dialogue.
No, I mean that's an essential part of what we do, and that's our game. It's a fundamental piece of it. But while you're experiencing the world and adventuring, why wouldn't we make it as immersive and reactive and sensitive and engaging an experience for you to walk through and wander through and journey
So
through?
there's kind of a less of a reliance on the text.
Yes.
More other things are telling us story as we move through the world.
Yes, and
Cool.
part of that too is just to add to that in a small way. Alongside that is also doing what we can to improve the play experience as we go forward. So part of making the world more interactive and a better experience is to make that content that does get delivered by text in some instances, like quests, make it a bit more intuitive for the player. So on tests now, you can players may or may not have seen that NPC details. The NPCs now in the world will provide you with the details of what quests they may update. So you might see a quest feather and an NPC name,
Oh, that's cool.
an icon, or you might see an item bag. So that's on test server, and we feel that's going to be a really good improvement for newer players and even existing players, because it.
Are you doing anything else for new players?
Yes. We also have now, when we're actually super excited about this change, the entire team, now typically in the past when you're doing a quest that required an item, that item would plop into your inventory and you'd be digging around trying to find out and remember what the heck it was you were supposed to use for whatever it was. Yeah.
There it is.
Yes, and you would hope and pray it was the right one. But now those have been taken out of your inventory and they're now in the quest journal. And you'll be able to see it in the UI, the quest journal UI, on the screen. So you'll be able to click a button and it will do the action of that item without you ever having to touch your inventory.
It's like a pet leash or something like that.
It will automatically be in your Quest journal window.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
I can imagine more than just new players will like that.
Yeah, yes, and that's another thing. We want to focus on changes. You know, we want to make changes that are beneficial to everyone, obviously. But this seemed like a global change that, you know, we are players too. So we're super excited about this and felt like it was a long time coming. I mean, it was one of those things where, again, you know, as I said, we've got amazing talent on our team, and it took one guy looking into it, and it didn't take him too long to figure it out. I mean, these guys are geniuses. They're doing some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the content team is getting it together.
Yes, yeah, they're really good.
Okay, so switching subjects briefly, we've spent a lot of time recently talking about the marketplace, the SC marketplace.
Yes. Yep.
And we have a lot of really cool stuff on the marketplace.
Yes.
But
Yes. Oh God.
we'd like to have less on the marketplace and more in the game, right?
Oh yeah. Yes. Ultimately, we want players. I think we recognize there's some crazy, amazing armor, weapons, etc. That we are players too. We often ask ourselves, why couldn't a player make this themselves? So we're not ignorant to that. It's not necessarily a complaint, but it seems like it would be an addition to gameplay. Why shouldn't someone be able to make this super awesome heritage armor for a Ratanga or whatever it may be? So we have been looking into those issues and looking at options of how we can offer same items to the players so they can make them themselves. But we don't have a specific timeline. There's some
Right.
things we want to make sure it's going to be a benefit to the players as well, you know?
But to be clear, we're looking into ways of taking
Yes.
stuff off the marketplace
So players can
and
make it.
setting it up so that players can make it instead.
Yeah. Yep.
That should also be happy.
Right? Yes.
I would like that.
Happiness, yeah. Yeah. Because, and honestly, speaking to that too, as the producer, we work with the artists we obviously have a plan in advance on what we want to do for the marketplace, and it's a big brainstorming activity where the team gets together to think about, you know, what would I want to buy, what would I want to play with and have as an appearance on my character, which is the primary thing. And so it evolves into a discussion that it doesn't necessarily always focus on marketplace items. We definitely balance these things with design, and quite often, if something feels more appropriate to put into the world, we share those things with design, and we share it.
Yeah.
Because we think obviously everything is awesome in its own way. But we do get this amazing opportunity to sit down and think through what would be amazing to have in my house, what would be amazing to wear.
Yeah.
And we've come up with some crazy stuff lately that we're hoping you'll see other editions of. So I hate to harp on the stuff, but I think they're super cool. So next week we're trying to get a video together. There's a sword that animates from a particle effect. There's no blade until you actually equip the sword and attack with it. It's just a really cool skull with a particle effect. And we just recently did some animated shields, one of which is available in Sky Shrine. So a dragon animating as you attack on the shield.
You mean it actually has an attack animation as you attack?
Yeah, it growls and snarls, and it goes back to its default position when you re-equip it. And the artists are doing more and more really original stuff. So
And those are SC items, just to be clear.
Some are and some aren't. The dragon one is in the game. It's in Sky Shrine.
The shield is a loot item that you get
Yes.
in Sky Shrine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then we'll look at options for putting those in the marketplace too. But I think we discuss quite often this issue of we don't. It's not an issue of trying to make sure we earn. Basically, we want to make the coolest stuff for players that we can at the end of the day. That's really all it's about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether it's in design or we put it on the marketplace, I'm just super excited about the really cool stuff that's coming out of our art team. It's really ridiculously awesome stuff.
And we're working on ways to get more of it into the game
yes,
instead
exactly.
of just introducing it on the marketplace.
Which is ultimately my point. Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
So there are some player questions that were submitted, and these are always fun. So we'll run through some of these together. For people that don't know what a classic server is, yeah, very nice. This is our
Yeah.
Austin
We have
Powers
a partnership. Yeah.
What's the possibility of an EQ2 Classic server? And by Classic server, you have to understand that the people who are asking questions are probably familiar with EQ and their Classic servers.
Yes.
And the time lock progression stuff.
Yeah, so we have a huge list of priorities we want to tackle, and we haven't seen that and we're obviously responding to players as that's our first priority. So it's not on our immediate list of things to do. It's always something interesting to look at, but it's certainly not on our schedule in the immediate time frame.
Am I correct in saying that in general, we're concentrating on content?
Absolutely,
So
without question.
Yeah. Here's a question I'm not sure you have an answer for. Now that we have adventure potions on the marketplace, are we going to be getting crafting ones as well?
Yeah, I was actually just talking to the design team before I came here, and I was talking to them, and we're trying to imagine exactly what would that mean. So it's certainly not that we're against it. We're trying to figure out, okay, what exactly would a trade skill potion mean? What's to the best advantage of a trade skiller when we're talking about these kinds of potions?
It's a good question because I don't know right off the bat.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah. Send us
Certainly
your
not
ideas.
success rate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
send us your thoughts for sure.
Cool. They'd like to see more character customization, visible jewelry and tinting for armor, decorator choices where we had cheaper homes and premium housing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so we do have jewelry. There's rings and you can buy rings. There's some and just to be to give you some background on a couple of things with how we, as I mentioned, we talk about the marketplace items and what we should do, and we do have these different categories, and we always try and add something new every few months. So we certainly haven't abandoned that category of appearance items. So we'll certainly be looking at doing more of those. As for, I understood the question where it seems now the premium housing or prestige housing rather, we don't have options for walls and floors,
Right.
et cetera, which I think is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, they want to tweak around.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should look at that for sure. Yeah.
I know from talking way back with Tim, the art director, that there are some serious technical challenges with that. We may have to revamp how housing works a little bit if we were going to do something like that. So it's not a simple thing. We wish it was simple, but it's not.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Because we would like to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is it possible to create NPCs that give quests to you and actually join your group?
Yeah, and again, we were talking about this as well. So ultimately, we're talking, well, yeah, why wouldn't it be interesting to have sort of a temporary mercenary that's got a motivation in your group? So yeah, generally we think it's a cool idea, and talking about the show don't tell, it seems like something we could certainly consider. And
Have you
discuss.
talked about it enough to decide whether or not they would take a player slot, or would they just be an addition?
I think they would, yeah, that's the question, right? I mean, if it's a mercenary, we would assume it would take a slot.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. At least that's the current thinking.
We don't know. It seems like a good idea.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
And then I suppose, lastly, you think the meat beast will ever return for the Beast Lord?
So this is an ongoing controversy and argument happening on the team. There is a equal camp who says yay.
There's no controversy.
And equal camp who says nay.
That's the right answer.
So, nay camp, yay camp. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely a hate-love thing.
It
People
is.
either hate the Beast Lord, or try again, the Meat Beast, or they love him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So no answer. It's going to be until there is a resolution to the argument.
It's probably going to be a cage match with lots of death and blood.
At least you said that. I thought you might. Yeah. That could have gone in a really bad way.
Was there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up?
I'm just, as we're going to be probably mid next month in a few weeks, we'll be putting keynotes out for testing, and we'd love to get the same amount of participation we had previously and in Sky Shrine, and also last year in December. So please come out and test it. Have a look around, poke around. A lot of things have moved. There's objects that have been, changed and re-added, quests, of course. So we'd love your participation. So please come and help us out. Yeah.
One last little thing. We have a press leak going out on the 30th, and then there's a big announcement happening on the first day of E3.
Yeah.
It's all related to EQ2. Watch out for it. That's it. Thanks very much.
Sony.